Hey there, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Excited at the time of this recording. It's the new year, so kind of getting things kicked off here. Hopefully you're able to enjoy some time with family, friends, relax, recharge, not get sick. Seems like everyone's getting sick everywhere. It's crazy. It just feels that way. Maybe it's not true, but that's the way it feels. So hopefully everyone's minding to their health and kickstarting the year in a positive way. You know, it's interesting this time of year. Obviously, it's cold in my area in the Northeast part of the country. It's winter time, not my favorite time of the year. I'm a more warm weather type of guy. I like to have my face in the sun and bask a bit. But, you know, it is winter. It's a reality. And in our crazy world we live in these days, there's a lot of continual uncertainty. And when I think about it, I was came across the kind of Game of Thrones sort of series again. And I don't know why it kind of got in my window again to start looking at it, you know, little snippets in here, really, really interesting stuff. But obviously one of the things in that show was the idea that winter is coming and prepare for it. And they didn't have it every year in the way that we were talking about, but you know, winter is coming and it can always come. I think, you know, regardless of if we're doing really well, you know, in our life, our business, our health, whatever the situation, that I think we always have to be prepared that it could easily flip. You know, we can get complacent. We can't, because what we do know in life is that things will change and they could go from really good to really bad and flip back and forth and just take what's happening in our financial markets and in all the massive bull run we've kind of come across since back in 2008 and where we are and where we might be heading, you know, whether it be a recession or not, I don't know. It's you know, you can shape the narrative however you like, but the reality is things are changing and they always will. And the question for us from a, you know, personal level and certainly financial level is, are we prepared for what may come? You can listen to 100 economists and I certainly listen to it just to kind of absorb what people are thinking, but I don't think anyone really truly knows. And it's tough to predict a lot of these things and because our world has gotten so complex. So, you know, there's not so much you probably should worry about them, but I would say that we need to focus on things we can control or at least influence. And the things that we cannot control, we just really have to put them out of our mind, because it could, listen, I'm guilty of it too. It could easily sort of put us into a spiral to research things, to worry, to create additional anxiety on things that I have little to no control over. And so really it's a good reminder maybe just to get back to what I can control. And in some things, and then at least I feel confident I'm spending my time and energy in places that are going to be worthwhile. So as it relates to our personal finances, which, you know, kind of can get complicated and there's different facets of it, but I wanted to share at least some of the thoughts that I had for this year as you're kind of thinking about maybe your finances, to, you know, what are things you can do to prepare for this potential storm, and with the winter coming, what can you do to better protect yourself and be prepared, even if it doesn't come in a severe nature? It could, right? Or if it is severe, that you're prepared and you can sort of weather that storm, whatever comes. So the first thing I would often sort of think about is to take a reality check of where you are. And maybe you do this periodically if you have an advisor, or you just naturally on top of these things doing an assessment. I think it's really a good time to really just assess the various areas of your financial life. We can always, you know, most news you'll hear will talk about inflation and recession hitting and what it might mean for the stock market. And that's usually the heart of it. But, you know, there's obviously a lot more centered around our finances than that. So start at the basics, right? Obviously, depending where you are in your life and career, protecting your assets, right? Hopefully you build up some assets in your home, maybe, you know, you have cars, you have things and such. Like, what does that look like? Do you have adequate protection for those sorts of things? You may want to revisit those and find a good expert around that to assess whether you're adequately protected for your assets that you own or hopefully own or plan to own. And so taking some time to take a look at that, even, umbrella insurance, right, against lawsuits that may come in your lifetime. You never know when these things are going to hit. So taking a look at those things and getting some expert eyes on that to see if you're adequately protected, right? That could have some severe impacts if you're not. Second part about protection is your income, right? We assume our income is just going to keep on going, whether it's through our business or through our jobs, but that may or may not be true. Our health can change very drastically in a heartbeat, as we have seen more recently in national events. So do you have the right protections on your income through disability insurance, and whether that can sustain you if you have a blip? I mean, we're more susceptible to disability than maybe even dying, which is the other factor to look at too. I mean, most people are woefully underinsured around their life insurance. And what would happen if something tragic did happen in your family? Could they continue to live the lifestyle that you'd hope for them? And so having a check on that too, to see if you're adequately protected. Obviously, we think about inflation and its impact from a pricing perspective, from energy to the food we buy, but our ability to live the life is going to continue to require more money too, and that's inflation. And so protecting it from a disability and life insurance is so key to evaluate on occasion, ensure you have the right kind. So making sure that you're covered there. And certainly as it relates to this too, it touches on estate planning, because we all know that it's not the most exciting topic to talk about, but the reality is that we all eventually leave this earth. So the question is, are you prepared? Is your family prepared for that day if it does happen? And this is a time to maybe reevaluate, estate plan, wills, trust, whatever, and get some things in place. It doesn't have to be complete, but having something in place to cover the basics. And there's obviously a lot of complexity that comes along that, but this day and age, there's half the people in the country don't even have a basic will in place. So these are all basic things you can do to kind of check and get some things in place now, and so reduce some of the pain down the road if it does happen. So outside the protection arm, which is large, is savings, right? Savings is a key area in our lives. We need to save money and have that liquidity for that rainy day. So making sure you have rainy day fund, emergency fund. But, in this time with a lot of chaos and interest rates rising and uncertainty in the economy, this is a potentially really good time to have some cash, right? Some extra cash. So I've always been a proponent of having cash that's considered opportunity fund, money that can take advantage of opportunities when others can't, because their money's tied up in their house or tied up in a 401k plan, IRA, like you can't touch it till later. So having extra money on the sidelines is like in the financial world, a call option. Gives you an option to take advantage of opportunities that come. And unfortunately, in the times when times go sour, usually that is a good time when opportunities come about that others can't take advantage of. Or it's like, when the herd's going one direction, it's probably good to go the other direction. So, if there is some bad times that hit us, that, the people who have prepared adequately and have the resources available to pull from could be in a massively powerful position to really reap the benefits. So having extra cash really good, and understanding where you're positioning it, and that's where is key to think about too. Growth-wise, investments, that is a typical thing people worry about their investments. We've seen it come down, could come down further, who knows? But this is also to evaluate, are you invested in things that you feel most comfortable with? I think most people can default to, hey, the stock market is the only place, but we know that is not true. And maybe this is a good time to explore long-term, like what are some other areas that you want to get into and learn about in terms of investments, and invest in maybe something more for yourself. And we'll go into that a little bit more. Debt-wise, obviously we are a debt-laden globe, right? From all the money being pumped into systems and the world of cheap debt. Well, that is starting to reverse. Obviously, we see interest rates rising, and they're looking to cause some pain in the economy by raising interest rates. And so this is a good time to reevaluate your debt situation, because it potentially could get worse in terms of interest rates, not sure. But even so, thinking about how to manage debt more efficiently and streamline that, especially if you have revolving variable debt, it's starting to get more expensive. So thinking about how we can position taking maybe bad debt and turning it into good debt, used very productively, right? This is where unfortunately in the world we live in with so much debt out there, it's probably going to some bad investments, some malinvestments that will probably rear their ugly heads at some point in the future. But this is time to maybe assess your debt levels and your interest rates and see if there's something better you can do with it. If you have high credit card debt, obviously not a good thing. Those are getting worse. So this is a good time to maybe reassess that and get a handle on and maybe reposition debt in a more positive light and prepare to access debt if needed for those opportunities. Lastly, cash flow, which is a lifeblood of our financial lives. Obviously, we need to keep a handle on that. Maybe for some, if you need some hardcore budgeting, this is a good time to assess it. But assessing the money, where your money is going. Is it going to places that are most valuable to you? We can easily get lost in our daily crazy lives of work and life and taking care of kids. Money is being sort of allocated to places that maybe we don't even use anymore, whether it be subscriptions to, whatever it is, their money leaking from our lives consistently. Good time maybe just to do a double check and make sure money is going to places that actually mean something to you. And that could mean even putting more money to other areas like your health or, spending time with family, whatever the situation, but using that time to ensure that you're maximizing the use of your dollars for really what matters to you. And that includes your time. But from a cash flow perspective, financially, taking a look at that and making sure that your money is going to spots that really align to what you're trying to achieve in life and certainly in your financial life. So that's a pretty big bucket. That's really kind of doing a sanity check of what's happening. If you haven't looked, this is a really good time, and certainly you might want to get some expert help on that as well. Certainly here to help if you want to look at that. So from a second level is, obviously creating income and looking at your career or business. And obviously there's potentially some things that will be changing. You hear the sort of the drumbeat of maybe recession coming, layoffs coming, even though looking at a job market looks great, right? Which is preventing maybe the Fed to maybe slow down their tightening. But what is it? What's happening? Say if you have your job, like assessing kind of what's happening in your companies and what's on the horizon, and maybe thinking about like if you are happy where you are and want to continue there, like what are ways that you can actually add more value to your business, right? To give you a leg up to stand out within your organization and maybe build up different skills that are going to make you more valuable to them as an employee. And then thinking about from your trajectory, where you want to take it, and spend some time in personal development and exploratory sort of mode to see how can you become a much more valuable asset to your organization, and hopefully make you immune if things hit the fan at your company. You're going to stand out as someone they don't want to let go, because you have more skills, more experience, more networks to contribute to the organization. And certainly from a business standpoint, we're always having to look at that, right? See what's coming out on the horizon. How can we expand the value we provide to our clients and customers that are consuming what we provide? And it's always should be a constant thing anyway, that we're looking at that and trying to assess what can we do to continually improve what we're doing internally in business, but more importantly, like what can we do to serve our clients and customers more, because that's really why we're in business anyway. But never get too complacent with that, because they demand more and we deserve to give more to them. And this is on a side note, if you're in a job and looking outside to think about how can you create some additional streams of income somehow, right? Explore there. It may not be something you pull the trigger on immediately, but exploring how you can create income in addition to what's happening today. We get so sort of ingrained, and because we're taught to say just accumulate money and someday we'll use it. But this is really a good time to start thinking about, are there ways to create additional streams of income that some passive and maybe some are more active that you can get into that may someday become a business for you down the road. And so this is where you can start exploring those avenues, because the reality is that, I think Warren Buffett said it best, and if you can't start creating streams of income that are happening while you're sleeping, you're going to be working for the rest of your lives. So this is an important sort of reminder to kind of think about how we can create additional streams of income in our lives in some shape or form, and learning more about them and investing in things that we, maybe understand better or have more control over, right? We're talking about control, and this whole sort of podcast is centered around like, what can we can control? And same with our investments. What in our careers, like what can we control in that environment that hopefully gives us more return out of it and reduces risk, right? That's really the heart of it. We want to reduce risk. I don't want loss in my investments as much as I can help it. And so learning more about it can hopefully mitigate some of that risk. And lastly, the thing I'd share, obviously this is something you would do periodically, but taking a view, if you kind of did those things, like what are some basic goals that you want to prioritize in the year, and even in the first quarter, 12 weeks, 13 weeks of the year, that are going to be important to you, that are going to help shape your life and help you prepare for a potential winter that's coming. Like what are those main goals that you want to really focus on, and what are some of the key steps that are going to help sort of drive that? And so putting pen to paper is oftentimes I've found very therapeutic and really gets it down tangibly as in terms of what you maybe want to focus on. I mean, it's helpful. And then sharing that with others, because, as we know in this world, there's only so much we can do individually in what we deliver. And we sometimes need a team or other advisors or mentors and such that can really help us, even our spouses, to really help push us and keep us accountable. So getting some of those goals down, and what are some action steps that can really help drive those goals, and getting those clear in your mind and on paper, and then sharing them with people you trust that will give you good feedback and be honest with you and help push you to become better. That's really will help drive you to stay focused and hopefully get you motivated to stay on track with it. It's not always the most fun exercise to do. I know in my history, it's never been, but then once you get them done, you get excited about them. You get these are achievable, and getting some momentum and action will really hopefully get you closer to meeting those goals and ultimately reaching the vision of your life, right? This is, finances. We talk a lot about finances, but it's the finances are there to propel what your vision of life is, and how you want to spend your days, how you want to utilize your resources for the betterment of your family, your communities, and others. That's really the heart. It isn't just building up money for the sake of building up money. It's got to have a purpose. To me, it's always been about wealth, and having wealth without a purpose is essentially poverty. It's just looking at accounts, and until you get a clarity on how they're going to be used to serve you, it's really not really that beneficial, frankly. It's just a way of keeping score. Hopefully this has been helpful to kind of get you rolling again. Take an assessment of your sort of broader financial life, from your protections, your savings, how you're investing, to debt, to cash flow is one. Taking a look at kind of how you are in your business, in your career, and what are ways that you can become more valuable and create other streams of income can be very helpful for you. And then really getting your goals really centered around really what's important, and maybe really hyper focusing on the areas that are really going to really create the biggest impact for what you want with your finances and ultimately your life. So those are hopefully ways that help you weather the storm and get you prepared for whatever comes, whatever winter looks like. And it could be worse or better than what all of these pundits are predicting, but you'll be doing the things that you can control, make an impact, and hopefully progress you forward in this life, and help you get prepared. So hopefully this was helpful. And anyone, if you ever want help around this too, think to think through these things, absolutely book a call and schedule some time. Love to chat with you, hear kind of what you're thinking, and help you in any way you'd like to empower you to live your best life. So we'll see you on the next episode of the Perennial Pride Podcast, and have a great one. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride Podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.